Welcome to Gamechangers live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to Game Changers, everybody. My name is Sergio Tigera, and we do this each and every week. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform that you listen to your shows. And today I have a very, very special guest with me. It's Sean Swarner. He's a philanthropist, author, and keynote speaker. He's a two-time terminal cancer survivor who's dedicated his life to helping others reach their potential. He created Cancer Climber with his brother in 2001. A non-for-profit organization that pays and travels with cancer survivors to climb Kilimanjaro. Sean's passion for climbing and adventure blossomed after becoming the first cancer survivor to summit Mount Everest. Since then, he has climbed all 7 summits and has skied to both the North and South Poles, making him the first cancer survivor to complete the Explorer's Grand Slam. He accomplished all of this and completed the Hawaii Ironman, all while having only one functioning lung. His adventures and passions have captured the attention of millions, and in 2017, a team followed Sean to the North Pole and made a documentary about him and his triumphs. The documentary True North was released on Amazon Prime, and in 2018, Sean was voted one of the top 8 most inspirational people in history and was the recipient of the Don't Ever Give Up Award presented by the Jimmy V Foundation and ESPN. So from executives of Fortune 500 companies such as IBM to students at Willard High School and NFL players on the New York Giants, and his countless leadership panels, inspirational keynotes, and book series, 7 Summits to Success, have inspired and won the hearts of millions to redefine their own impossible. What separates Sean from the others is that he doesn't want people to simply believe they can achieve the impossible. He provides them with the tools to do so. This story has been shared by the Steve Harvey Show, CBS Evening News, the Today Show, and Good Morning America, just to list a few. And he's been featured in numerous articles alongside luminaries such as Sir Richard Branson and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Today, you can find Sean supporting various nonprofit organizations, speaking at events, and planning his next adventure. And for those of you who want to learn more about Sean or from Sean, check out his course and materials at SeanSwarmer.com. Sean, great to have you on Game Changers, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You're going on. I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm running out of stuff to say.
Sound pretty good. You sound pretty good. No, but we're going to get into a lot of the detail here because your story is fascinating. And after hearing you, so Sean and I met on Clubhouse. You know, if you haven't been on Clubhouse, you got to get on. There's amazing people on there. But once I heard his story, I immediately DM'd him and we connected. We both have Puerto Rican wives to start off with, so that's and he's in Puerto Rico
right now. Yep.
Right now, right? But his story is absolutely captivating and inspirational to so many, and I want to make sure that we share that story with all of you and get that out. So, at an early age, Sean survived 2 terminal cancer diagnoses. And then has gone on to do some amazing things, things that people would normally not do in their life with perfectly healthy bodies. So he's been able to develop and refine his programming, his mindset to achieve some extraordinary things. And I want to get into that. So tell me a little bit about, okay, you were young, you were 12, 13 years old. You had a great life. You're a great swimmer. And then what happened?
Oh man, I think that's kind of like when my life began or when my life changed. I remember 8th grade, so I was 13 years old, and I was going out for a layup in basketball. Came down, and that's when my knee just cracked. And you know that sound of, like for Thanksgiving dinner, you're gnawing on the turkey leg, and that the gristle and the tendons are snapping, right? Yeah, that's what my knee sounded like. So the doctors, they put me in the hospital because after that, every joint just swelled up so much. And I was sitting in the hospital thinking, I can probably milk this for all it's worth.
From school and so forth.
Exactly. Taking time off from school, the cheerleaders would come in with balloons. I was living it up, but Initially, they tried to treat me for pneumonia, which, it's pretty difficult to cure cancer by sucking on a nebulizer. So that didn't work. Then they sent me to Columbus, Ohio, where they had diagnosed with advanced stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. So here I am, an 8th grader, basically the cusp of my teen years. And they told my mom and my dad, your firstborn son now has an expiration date, and that's pretty much 3 months from now.
So if it wasn't for the snapping of the ligaments and your knee,
exactly,
you wouldn't have found out. You could have just gone downhill quick.
Exactly. The doctors think that if I didn't have that knee injury, I wouldn't be here right now.
Wow.
That's how they found the cancer. I had no night sweats. I had no symptoms. I had nothing, no swollen lymph nodes, except that one knee injury, that happenstance, that what I call it God wink, that I'm doing the right thing. That God wink came in, and all of a sudden, boom, everything just exploded. I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. So that's the only way they found the cancer.
So it was a blessing in disguise. And your family, was that something hereditary that people have had, or is that came out of the blue somehow?
Yeah, completely out of the blue. In fact, when I was first diagnosed, they told my parents, or they told me that I was sick. My mom's stepmother, so my step grandma, she had cancer, but it was throat cancer because she was a smoker. And my parents didn't tell me that Hodgkin's disease meant cancer because they didn't want me to associate cancer with death, like with my step grandma. So they just told me over and over again, you're sick, you're going through Hodgkin's disease. They didn't tell me it was cancer. But being a nosy 13-year-old, you can't hide things from kids for that long. So I discovered that it was cancer, and I think the first thing that went through my mind was, all right, well, it's cancer. This is what we're going to do. Let's take care of it. Let's figure out a way. We know what it is. Now let's move forward to take care of it. And
was that just a natural reaction, or did you find yourself getting depressed, or did that ever happen?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think it's because I was told differently than most people. So if you go back and let's say you look at the last 40 or 50 years of the field of oncology, the medicine's changed leaps and bounds, right? But how they've treated the patients on a personal basis hasn't changed much. They usually sit the person down in the office, the doctor's office, and they look at him and say, Sergio, I'm sorry, you have cancer. This is what it is. This is what we're going to do. But the instant you hear cancer, you've tuned out.
Right.
You don't even hear the rest of it. It could be, hey, you're just going to have a little scrape and you're done. But all your brain hears is you have cancer and you check out. For me, I think it was beneficial that my parents told me, hey, you're sick. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take care of it. And I can only imagine how different and how many more survivors we would have if the doctor sat somebody down, or whoever it was, sat them down and said, look, you have a condition. This is what we're going to do to take care of it. And oh, by the way, it's cancer. So the medical industry, the medical aspect of it has changed so much in the past 40 or 50 years, but the psychological aspect hasn't changed one bit. And I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, and there's a number of reasons I'm still alive, but I think that's one reason, because I saw it from a different perspective from the beginning.
Wow. Okay. So then once you found out, you started treating it. And then what happened when you started treating it? You said you blew up, you gained, 40, 50 pounds or something?
Yeah, I was 50, 60 pounds overweight. I remember like the third month into it, third or fourth month into it, I remember I was 60 pounds overweight. And that's when I started losing my hair. I knew it was inevitable. So I ran to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. It was like right after I woke up. I looked into the mirror, thought maybe I can comb it over. Maybe I can stop it from falling out. But it was just like, you just kind of go like this and just be a chunk of hair hanging in my hands. Oh my God. So I went into the shower, I turned it on, and I remember the water not hitting my hair, just kind of soaking in. It actually was hitting my scalp at that point. And I literally collapsed to the shower floor on my hands and knees. And I wept, I lost it. I was just a mess. All these emotions going through me of almost like utter despair and hopelessness, because I was just crying my eyeballs out, pulling chunks of hair out of the drain so the water could go down. And I think it was also in that same moment that I was thinking about what my friends were doing, getting ready for school that same day. 8th graders, 13 years old. They were worried about the latest hairstyles, the nicest clothes, being popular.
Yeah.
I was literally worried about fighting for my life.
So you were going to school and, losing your hair, completely overweight, your self-esteem must have been, just screaming, "Get me out of here," right? Like, I want to go home.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be with anybody.
But I also think that, going in and out of the hospital so many times, I was probably one of the only eighth graders who wanted to go to school. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I wanted to go to school.
Right.
So the first time around, it wasn't as bad as the second time with a different cancer, which I'm sure we'll get to. But I remember I was wearing a wig in school, and a lot of people, because I think because I grew up in such a small town, the teachers explained to the students why I looked that way.
Got it.
And I think I think that helped a ton. The bullies in school,
Sure.
they didn't pick on me. They realized, oh, he's going through enough, and they just left me alone. And I actually had the whole town rally around me because I grew up I think our Willard, Ohio was maybe 5,000 people. So I think I was very fortunate.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So you started chemo. You survived that one. You thought you were out of the weeds. You're back on track. And then a couple of years later, you get more news.
Wow. Yeah, I was actually going in for a checkup for the first cancer when they found a second cancer, completely unrelated to the first one. So still to this day, I think I'm the only person in history to have ever been diagnosed with both Hodgkin's lymphoma and Askins sarcoma, which this time around was a type of cancer that affects 3 out of 1 million people with a prognosis of 6%. Meaning if you have 100 people with this cancer, 94 die. And because no one's ever had these two cancers before, they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know what was going to work. They didn't know anything. So the chances of me surviving both of these illnesses is literally equivalent to winning the lottery 4 times in a row with the same numbers. I mean, it was an impossibility. And that's when they gave me 14 days to live. I was laying in the hospital bed, man on the cloth came in, ashes to ashes. I was read my last rites.
Wow. And what was going through your mind at that point? Did you give up? Were you saying
at
that's
that
it?
point? No, actually, at that point, I don't know if you've ever seen Monty Python, I think The Meaning of Life. That opening scene, they're in the Black Flag and they're tossing bodies onto that, like, bring out your dead, bring out your dead.
Yeah.
And there's that old man, like, I'm not dead yet. He goes, but you will be soon. That's how I felt.
Oh my gosh.
I was laying there. I looked at my mom. And I was like, what are they doing? I'm not dead yet. And then he started doing his thing. And my mom actually asked the pastor to leave. And then the hospital came in and they wanted me to write out a living will and give back to the hospital. And I looked at mom and dad again. I was like, my younger brother is going to get my hand-me-downs anyhow. What do these guys want?
Right. Yeah.
So I think, again, I just looked at it from a different perspective. And the same, going back to the shower scene, when I was in there weeping, it was also, I think that moment changed my life because I looked at it from a different perspective. And like I said, I started seeing things differently. And I figured that in that moment, I had 2 choices. I could either fight for my life or give up and die. And the latter is just not an option. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to focus on what I wanted, not the avoidance of what I didn't want. After thinking about it later, that's what I came up with. Because when I was in the hospital, when I was on the bottom of that shower floor, I realized that I didn't want to not die. I wanted to live. And I did the same thing. I told myself when I got diagnosed the second time around, I thought, man, my life's over again. This time I'm 16, I'm getting ready to drive. I'm getting ready to go out on dates. Hormones are kicking in. I'm growing hair in unusual places on my body. I knew I was going to lose my hair again, but I realized that I wanted to fight and live. There was so much I had to go. There's so much that I wanted to do in life.
So you hit the brakes when they started coming in and reading your, your last will and everything else like that. And you said, no, I'm get them out of here. I'm not done yet. I'm not done living.
Yeah. And even today, I think I'm more afraid of not living than I am of dying.
Wow. And very few people have that point of view, right? Very few people have that point of view.
Exactly. And I don't know, It usually means that they've never gone through something traumatic, or they've never taken time out in their lives to look themselves in the mirror and ask them deep questions. You know, the people who are passionate about life are the ones who understand what their personal core values are.
So did you feel that once you survived both cancers, you said that, I'm unstoppable, but I am here for a reason. God's put me here to do something, right? To inspire, because like you said, nobody's ever lived through that before.
Right.
And so the fact that you've done that alone is tremendous, and should be, inspiring for so many people out there who perhaps don't have that mindset and are going through some tough times. At what point did you say, well, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest to inspire people even more? How did that even come up, coming from Ohio?
That's not a logical transition in there.
Coming from Ohio, not really.
It's funny because when I graduated high school, I didn't really look at the whole cancer thing. I went to college, and I literally turned into Belushi from Animal House. I was reliving my high school years. I loved it. I was the party guy. When I went to grad school, I was going to say close to you, but Florida is such a big state. North of you in Jacksonville, University of North Florida. I was working on my master's and my doctorate, and I wanted to be a psychologist for cancer patients, but I never took the time again to ask myself, what I wanted, who I was. So that's when I dropped out of school, and I realized, hey, you know what? I've been blessed with this mind-body connection, and I think I can accomplish anything I put my mind to, and anyone can. You just have to believe it, and put in the hard work too, massive effort. And I just kept thinking of bigger things, and I thought, okay, well, why don't I use the largest platform in the world to scream hope and give back to the cancer community and give them something I never had?
And so
it kind of was that logical progression of just thinking bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So you said, okay, that's, Mount Everest, the probably most, prominent mountain on earth. And if I can do that, then, and on one lung, because you lost was it your right lung through the radiation?
Lung. Yeah, I have both of them, but because there's so much scar tissue, there's no oxygen transfer.
Wow. And so, all right. So then at what point is this? What year?
This was in 2001, so a while ago.
All right.
So then 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I moved from Jacksonville to Colorado. Because when I came up with the idea, the highest point in Florida is actually the top of the Four Seasons in Miami.
Yes, it is. That's right. That's right. So did people say, you're crazy? What are you doing this for? Like that, you don't have nothing to prove. Did people, come up to you with that?
Absolutely. People told me that I was nuts. I mean, because my brother, he graduated a few years after me. He moved down. Mom and Dad, when I left Ohio for Jacksonville, Mom and Dad moved to Hilton Head. So a little bit closer, actually a lot closer. And when they moved down there a year later, my brother and I packed up our Honda Civic and drove out to Colorado. And I remember my dad looking at me, hugging us, we're all in tears. And he actually said, we didn't get you through 2 cancers to go kill yourself on a hunk of rock and ice.
Right.
So, they've always supported me, but they've always told me that they're the truth, what they're thinking. So a lot of people did initially when I first moved out there, because I didn't have the background. I didn't have the climbing background at all. And people told me it was physiologically impossible for someone with half their lung capacity to climb Everest.
Right.
In fact, when I started reaching out to Everest organizers, you can't just show up in Nepal or China and say, hey, I'm here, let's go climb. It's a big undertaking. So you have to put these expedition groups together. And I approached a ton of people, and none of them would take me. They just wouldn't let me on their expedition permit. They said that, I would be a liability.
Yeah, because you have to do the physical, and with that one lung, it could drag down, the whole group. You could fall behind, things like that.
Absolutely.
So you pressed on, you found a group to take you out there, and as you're climbing up, did you ever say, what am I doing here? I severely underestimated, what it takes to climb up this mountain, or were you saying, well, this isn't that bad? What was your mindset like at that point?
I would say both, because a lot of people don't understand how long it takes to climb Everest. We got to base camp April 8th, and I summited May 16th. So
What?
about a month and a half. Yeah, because you're constantly going up and down the mountain. So let's just say base camp is right here, right at my stomach, and the summit's my head. What you do is you go up, and then you establish one camp, and then you go back down, and then you rest, and then you go back up, and every time you go up with a full backpack, and you go back down with an empty backpack. So you're constantly shuttling things up and down the mountain. And the reason you rest down below is because your body's actually getting adjusted to the higher altitudes, and it's manufacturing more red blood cells and hemoglobin. Because if we left from where we are, both of us roughly at sea level, and we went to the top of Everest, we would be dead within 5 minutes because there's not enough oxygen to sustain life support up there. So we went up to camp 1, back down, up to camp 1 again, back down, up to camp 2, maybe a couple nights, back to base camp, up and down, and then we established camp 3, and then established camp 4, and then from camp 4 is when we went for the summit. So it's constantly shuttling things up and down. So it serves two purposes. You're getting your body adjusted to the altitude, and you're bringing others like gear, food, stoves, fuel, stuff like that up and down to the different camps, getting everything ready for the summit push.
Wow. I had no idea it took that long to actually climb it. So you're out there like a month and a half, and you have, your wife back home. You have kids?
None that I know of. No
okay.
kids.
Yeah, your wife back home. We're probably worried sick. Right.
Well, we weren't married. We just got married 2 years ago. I actually proposed to her from the North Pole.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that, man? You got us all beat, buddy. You got us all beat.
Yeah, but here's the thing: how many women dream of being proposed to by a guy over the phone thousands of miles away?
Depends where they're at, right? If they're thousands of miles away in some city, but you're in the North Pole, that is pretty cool. So, all right. So it takes you about a month and a half. You get up to the summit. What did you feel? I mean, what does it feel like to be on top of Mount Everest, on top of the world?
Well, you know how quickly your brain fires, right?
Yeah.
You can think this. So the first thing I thought of when I got up there was, holy crap, I made it. This is unbelievable. And then I thought, okay, well, the first thing I wanted to do, the entire time I was climbing, I had a flag that was about this big that had names of people touched by cancer, right? And it was always in my chest pocket close to my heart. So I took that out, I wrapped it around the top of the world. There's like this little thing that hangs out there that has little red reflectors where they can actually measure the height of Everest from, I think, Kathmandu with a laser or something like that. So I wrapped it around that. And then after I did that, I just kind of looked around and I was thinking to myself, man, this is just unbelievable. And then in a split second later, I thought to myself, man, I have to go back down.
Where's the elevator?
Halfway.
Wow. So how long were you up there?
We had such beautiful weather. I was up there. Usually people go up there, take a picture and get down. We were up there for about, I would say 20 to 30 minutes. It was just spectacular. It was beautiful. There was a slight breeze. The fan behind me here is probably producing more wind than what was up there. However, later in the day, we were just battered by 80, 90 mile an hour winds.
Oh my gosh. So then you start heading back down. How long does it take you to get down?
So as you heard, it takes a month and a half to get up there. We went from the summit back to camp 4, slept there, cleaned up camp 4, went to camp 3, cleaned up camp 3, went to camp 2, cleaned up camp 2, went to camp 1, cleaned up camp 1, and then went to base camp. I think 3 days later, I was in Kathmandu. I think at that point, I was just like, get me the hell out of here.
Yeah. Let's go. I'm done with it. Did you experience any frostbite? Any issues with?
I had a tiny blood blister on my right toe. And that was it. Aside from at camp 3, this was crazy. At camp 3, when we were on our way to go to camp 4 and then summit, I came down with high altitude cerebral edema, very mild form, which is actually altitude induced swelling of the brain because you have less pressure out here. My body wasn't used to it. So my brain started swelling. I had the buildup of pressure in there, less pressure out here, just started going out. And it would take me 30 minutes to put on a boot, right? And I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. So to test for it, what you do is kind of a field sobriety test, heel toe. And I put one foot down and the other one was way over here on the right side or way over here on the left side. I was just dizzy, vertigo. And I'm on the side of what's called the Lhotse ice face, which is a 45-degree angle sheet of ice, bulletproof ice, where if you take one wrong step, you would literally tumble a mile down.
Oh my gosh.
And you're not walking away from that. So I actually slept on oxygen that night, did not move for an entire 24 hours, and then woke up the day after and felt perfectly fine. But everybody who was on the same schedule as us to go from that camp up to Camp 4 and Summit, when I was stuck back at Camp 3, they went up for the Summit push. The weather turned bad and they had to come back down. I woke up 2 days later feeling perfectly fine, went to Camp 4, up, perfect weather. That was the weather window. So if I wouldn't have had that knee injury, they wouldn't have found the cancer. If I wouldn't have had the altitude-induced swelling in the brain, I wouldn't have made the Summit. So I kind of like jokingly say, I think I have a fleet of guardian angels working on overtime, and I think I have the world's worst good luck.
The world's worst good luck. That's good. That's good. But hey, everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it's not that, things happen to me, things happen for me. And that's a different way to look at it, because things tend to happen in your favor. Doesn't feel like it at the point, when it's going on, it feels like it's holding you back, but they're actually blessings in disguise.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole two cancers thing, I have no idea where I'd be if it wasn't for those, so every morning I wake up is a true blessing.
So then, all right, so you climb Mount Everest, and then you decide, well, if I did that, I might as well go climb the 7 highest peaks in the world. Is that the next logical? The next logical.
That's logical stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, I figured, because I had heard of this thing called the 7 Summits, and I started with Everest. Most people end with Everest because it's the most difficult one.
Sure.
So I figured I knocked out the big guy. Let's go and do the rest, because the other ones will be downhill from there. But on each one of the 7 summits, I took another flag that had names of people touched by cancer and put a flag on top of each one of those peaks as well.
Unbelievable. And so how long did it take you to complete all 7 summits?
I want to say 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Because Denali, the highest mountain in Alaska, took me 3 attempts. The first time I fell 100 feet on a glacier, just zipped down. Roped up to my climbing partner. So we had 50 feet of rope between the two of us. I fell 50 feet and then 50 feet below him. And then when I kind of got my wits about me, I climbed back up there and belayed him in, on the rope. And when he got up to me, I was just, my adrenaline was gone. I was shaking. I told him, look, man, we have to get back down to camp. So we got back down to camp. I sat in the tent and I just kind of looked up give me a sign. Let me know if I should be here or not. Let me know if it's my time. Yeah. And I leaned back in my tent. Somehow my hood caught my glacier glasses and snapped them right in half. I looked up again. I was like, man, I kind of needed those. A smaller sign would have been good. But then next year I went up there and we had more snow in 2 nights than the Alaska Range did the entire winter. Flew home and then flew back up a week later, had no issues at all. Walked right up the mountain.
Wow. Unbelievable, man. So, all right. So we do all 7. Then you're like, all right, well, might as well just do the Adventurers Grand Slam now that we already made it this far. Might as well go to the South and North Pole and then maybe to Mars at some point, right? So, how was the South Pole trek?
The South Pole was. It was exactly like I expected, but at the same time, nothing like I expected. So what I mean by that is I knew it was going to be white, snowy, and cold. What I didn't realize was that in the tent, because the sun down there in January, their summertime, our winter up here in the Northern Hemisphere, the sun never sets down there, which I knew. It just does a big halo in the sky. So the only difference between noon and midnight is the sun's in front of you or the sun's behind you.
Right.
But what I didn't realize is because of the intense radiation. If I'm laying in my tent and the sun's over here and it's slowly going around this way, my I guess my expedition partner, who's 6 feet, maybe that far, 6 feet away, say. I'm over here with my 40 below sleeping bag off. I'm sleeping on top of it. It's completely unzipped. no shirt on, just my underwear. Just laying there in my boxers. I'm hot over here.
Wow.
He's zipped up in his 40 below sleeping bag because he's in the shade. And as the sun kind of went around our heads, I would slowly zip up my sleeping bag on this side, and he would slowly unzip throughout the night. That's one thing I didn't even think about at all. It didn't even register until all of a sudden the first night I'm laying out there thinking, why am I so hot?
Interesting. Oh my gosh. No, I never thought about that. And so then you get to the South Pole. How long did it take you to get there?
About a week, I say.
About a week.
Yeah, I want to say about a week. Yeah, because we did what's called the last degree. So we flew into the 89th parallel and went to the 90th. So about 100 miles, we'll say. 5-6 days, I think.
5-6 days walking, towing your
south. Yeah.
Walking south. And you get there, and did you realize you were there, or just kind of it looks all the same anyway?
No, see, that's the cool thing about the South Pole. The North Pole, there's nothing there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find Santa. He must have had his cloaking device on. But the South Pole, there's a South Pole research station. So they had this this barbershop candy colored marker with a globe on top that's super shiny. And then I forget how many different flags in a half circle around it, because there's a treaty where all of those countries, pretty much no one owns Antarctica, but it's all those countries that work together to protect
Converge there.
Yeah. Exactly. So one of the coolest parts was when I got to that pole, right, the South Pole, I walked around it, right, and I thought to myself, I just walked in 24 different time zones.
Yeah. Oh, what an experience that must have been.
That was really cool. And I didn't kiss the pole. I didn't do anything because, obviously it was just your lip would freeze right to it.
And then, in your last journeys to the North Pole, if you guys haven't watched it, True North, the Sean Swarner story is unbelievable. It's really a great documentary. You can find it on Amazon Prime, and it documents his last journey up to the North Pole, which is the Adventurer's Grand Slam completion. But what really caught my attention and my emotions was all the cancer survivors that you had sign, people signed for their dad or for their mom, their relatives or friends who had cancer and survived. And at the end, I don't want to mess up the story, but when you pull out that flag and you're pushing it, you're pushing your sled all the way to the North Pole and you pull out that flag, I almost had tears coming down my face. I mean, what was going through your emotions? Obviously, you were crying at that point too. I mean, tell me a little bit about what that felt like.
So I think one of the reasons I've been able to do what I have been, like we said, climbing Everest with one lung, all these crazy things. One of the main reasons I think I'm successful is because I've emotionally attached myself to the end result. So even before I begin going on any journey, I always picture myself at the end, and not just what I'm doing, and not just hearing the styrofoam sound of the snow under my feet and smelling the ozone, or hearing the wind whip by my ears, or feeling the sun on my face. What happens is with vivid visualization, so many people forget to add that emotional attachment, which helps you tap into your subconscious. And that is what drives me. Because anytime I get into a situation where all hope might feel like it's lost, I picture myself back there again with those emotions. And whatever I'm going through in the present moment, I know I can get through, because the end result is worth it. And in my mind, before I begin, I'm already successful. So when I got there, the whole time, I knew it was going to be emotional. I just didn't know what I was going to do until that moment when we got really close to 90 degrees north. And that's when I decided, you know what? All these people who are on the flag, all these people who've lost someone to cancer, all these people who were survivors or patients currently battling, they had literally been pushing me because they were in my sled, like you mentioned. They've been pushing me for the last, let's say, 100 miles. I wanted to push them, to kind of thank them for the inspiration and the hope that they've given me. So when I pulled that flag out, I was a mess.
Yeah.
I could barely see, and the tears were coming down, freezing to my cheeks. That's probably one thing you couldn't see, but the emotions that I experienced when I reached the North Pole, knowing that, again, being the first cancer survivor to do that, but in my mind, it was all of us at the same time, all of us accomplishing it together. And I think that's what really pulled out those emotions and brought those emotions out, because I was just caught up in how many people in the world. I mean, it's turned into a global epidemic almost. And I'm sure someone, and people who are watching this, they know at least one person who's been touched by cancer. So I thought of all those people who were fighting for their lives, all the people who passed away. And that just brought out all those emotions. And it was just overwhelming.
Yeah. So, and you talk about visualizing and how important that is, visualizing the end in mind. When we set goals, like you said, that emotional part is so important, because that's really what drives you, right? We tend to act on our emotions. We remember how people make us feel, not necessarily what they say. So the emotion carries a lot of weight in your ability to achieve your goals in life. And so, like you said, using all five senses, what is it going to feel like? What is it going to look like? What's going to taste like? What am I going to hear? But more importantly, what is it going to feel like? And having something bigger than yourself, your why, which was you were pushing all these people, they were pushing you, and then you were pushing them together. That just made it all that more extraordinary and meaningful to you and to others, right? So
Absolutely. Sorry, I muted it because there's a dog barking over here. I think so many people remove, and without getting too philosophical, I wonder if so many people remove themselves emotionally because we're told, "Hey, you're a man, stiff upper lip, don't cry, whatever."
Sure.
And that's a load of garbage. We're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
We're being, and we have those emotions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever your why, whatever your purpose, I actually, it took me months to put this together. So if anybody wants, I put together a core values assessment, and there's a list of all these values, and you can pick out a certain number of them, and those become your personal core values. So by utilizing that, you now have a visual representation of exactly what means most to you. So moving forward in life, you can start putting more energy, more effort into something that will make you feel more whole, more complete. So if anybody's interested, just, like SeanSwarner.com, whatever, just reach out, and I promise it will change your life. Because how many people do you know who are thinking, oh, I need to do this? Like they have a to-do list. I need to do this, like a mental to-do list, not like going to the grocery store. But I need to add, more time with my kids, more this, more family, more, whatever. But if you're just all over the place and you don't know what you need to focus on, you're never going to get there. So I think having your personal core values is a huge differentiator between, I guess, I don't want to say normal people, because if normal people and people who have no goals, if they're comfortable with that, that's fantastic. No, just keep doing. If you're happy, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want more, you have to understand where you need to put in that energy and effort.
There's a great quote that says, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And like you said, being very clear about what you value gives you the bumpers on the bowling alley, right? It kind of keeps you within your lane to say, do these activities, do these people fall within my core values? If not, it makes, decision, they're outside, and it makes decision making very easily, because it helps guide your actions and your behaviors going forward.
Absolutely.
And so absolutely love that. Sean, so they can reach out to you at Sean Swarner on Instagram, on SeanSwarner.com. And tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now. Tell us about the Summit Challenge, because that sounds very exciting.
So going back to the personal core values, the Summit Challenge, it's an online program. It's an online series of 7 separate challenges, personal challenges, like figurative challenge, not literal, like I'm going to take you up to the top of Everest or something. However, I do lead a group up Kilimanjaro every year, if anyone's interested. We do this as a fundraiser for a cancer charity. But it's a series of 7 separate challenges that help build on one another. And it's not a, hey, I want to lose 15 pounds for a wedding next month type of program. It's, hey, I want to change the way I eat. I want to change my lifestyle type program. So the idea behind it is, if you want something different, do something different. But you have to do it based on the idea that you have to believe it's possible, see it's possible, then work through mindfulness, the compound effect, and then I help people work through their gales, which are the gremlins, the assumptions, the limiting beliefs, and the interpretations. And then it goes on through this whole, again, this linear path to help people focus on what matters most to them, so they can see where they want to start changing their bad habits. And just consciously help people literally reprogram their brains to become who they want to become. And I've worked with a number of millionaires and multimillionaires and some billionaires, and I can't tell you how many of them, they have everything in the world, except they don't seem complete, they don't seem whole, they don't seem happy. Mm-hmm. This helps you do that. This helps you get that happiness, but it also helps you, if you want to go after something, this will help you get there. It's not going to change you overnight, but it will give you the tools to change for the rest of your life.
So where can they find out? Is it thesummitchallenge.com?
Thesummitchallenge.com. Yep.
There you go. So for all you looking to make some major changes and major impact in your life, you can take Sean's story and his philosophy and apply it to your day and become a game changer, not only in your life, but in somebody else's life. So Sean, thank you so much, buddy, for being on, man. You are an inspiration, an icon, and keep doing what you're doing, brother.
My pleasure. Really appreciate it, man. Grateful for your time.
All right. If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.